Fourth straight day, Carol Massar, of gains in U.S. equities.
Pretty remarkable, right? And I thought it was interesting. I heard you just getting into this, that the Russell, the small caps outperforming. So interesting to see investors kind of spreading out and pushing even that index higher than some of your larger cap indices.
Okay, so next week we get the Federal Reserve press conference and, of course, the decision. Scarlett, 25 basis points after today's data, is that pretty much locked in? Is that how you're seeing this?
That's what's baked in at the moment, although a lot of people are expecting 100 basis points cut overall for this year, which a lot of people still say strikes them as a little bit too dovish. But, this market has been a bit too dovish all along, and, the Fed hasn't even begun doing anything yet.
Guys, NVIDIA has the power of a central banker. Okay, that's what this is. That's from Charlie McGilligot of Nomura. I've been talking about it all hour on TV. If that moves higher, you get the FOMO, and then you get the catch-up.
Yeah, and it gets into the question, too, is we talk about this idea of sort of what the next catalysts are. And I'm glad you bring that up, the idea that maybe that catalyst really isn't as much the Fed, particularly given how much of already is priced in. It really is going to go back to the corporate fundamentals. And, of course, the one fundamental that matters, which seems to be chips and AI.
Exactly. Okay, maybe you buy the Russell if we get into a Fed cutting cycle. But is that a little different than the FOMO buying that we see when it comes to NVIDIA?
Here's a date for you guys, November 21st, NVIDIA's next earnings.
All right, a slight uptick in yields here on this day, Carol Massar, which I believe is September 12th. But thank you for the update there. A bit, crypto also getting a bid here on this day. The dollar down, the VIX down as well, but stocks green across the screen. The Dow up about 0.6% here on the day. The S&P higher by about 0.8%, right back up to that 5,600 level, a level that Jay Woods was just talking about that could be a bit of resistance for this market. The Nasdaq up about 174 points or 1% on the day. And there's your outperformer, believe it or not. The Russell 2000 adding 26 points or 1.2%.
Yes, indeed, it is Thursday, September 12th. Tomorrow, by the way, Friday the 13th. Having said that, going back to the big caps, S&P 500, Scarlett, 372 names gaining ground. So we saw a fairly broad-based buying in today's session, 130 to the downside.
Yeah, you see that reflected in the IMAP, which, of course, looks at the S&P 500 and its 11 sectors. Spinach pie, pesto pie, all around for everyone. All 11 sectors in the green, led by communication services, which is really media and entertainment companies like Warner Brothers Discovery and Charter Communications. Energy stocks recovering a bit because they have been the laggards here for the past 3 months, the past 6 months, for this week. Today, in terms of the weak links, you have REITs and financials trailing in that they're only up by 0.1%.
All right, let's get to some of the individual gainers. And you went right there in terms of media companies, Scarlett, for me and setting me up so well. Warner Brothers Discovery, folks, number one gainer in the S&P 500, finishing just off its highs of the session, but still a gain of 10.4%, a top name in both the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ 100. CEO speaking at a Goldman Sachs conference today, saying it has signed a new multi-year distribution deal for all its cable channels. The company came out and said that with Charter Communications, so renewing early. Warner Brothers also saying Charter paying higher prices for channels, so you can understand why investors interested certainly in that one. Another one that is top in the S&P 500, Kroger, specifically the grocery store. We know who they are, right? They talked about second quarter gross margin expansion. That impressed Wall Street. They also lifted their full year guidance. This, as the company says, it's benefiting from consumers prioritizing spending on groceries and other essentials. The company's still defending, as you know, its proposed $24.6 billion acquisition and deal for Albertsons. They're doing that in court. One more for you. Broadcom, a top gainer in the NASDAQ 100. Bernstein out with a note saying Broadcom and NVIDIA remain top picks in the semi-sector, and they have outperformed ratings on both. I know earlier, Alex, you talked a little bit about NVIDIA and its help in pushing the equity markets higher over the last couple of days.
Okay, you got the easy job today, Carol, with finding the stocks that moved higher. I'm looking at the stocks that moved lower today. Micron Technology shares lower today. The company extending that recent sell-off, this after BNP Paribas warned that the stock would continue to underperform others connected to AI. We're talking about Carl Ackerman, who downgraded the stock by 2 notches to underperform from outperform, becoming the only analyst tracked by Bloomberg to recommend selling the shares. Shares falling by 3.8%. Ticker mRNA Moderna. I think I saw Jerry Smith on your air a little earlier talking about this. Shares fell after the company.
Tim.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
I multitask. I tune in. You listen to our show, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
Every time
we talked to Derek Jeter a little earlier.
Oh, we saw.
Yeah.
Scarlett definitely saw.
Yeah, he was on our show.
I walked behind your studio a couple of times,
Nice guy. Super nice guy.
Did you call him the captain?
No.
Did we?
I did not. We
No.
did not. Should we have done that, Scarlett? Where
Next
were
time.
you next
No.
time? No.
This is why you need me.
Yes,
I know.
this is true.
We
Invite
always
her
need
next
you.
time.
All right.
Okay, I'll get back to Moderna, though. The company said it's aimed to reduce its research and development budget by 20% over the next 3 years. It's looking to find a path to profitability following those disappointing vaccine sales. They're discontinuing 5 programs in the pipeline, slowing some late-stage studies of treatments for latent and rare diseases to achieve that $1.1 billion cut from the R&D budget by 2027. They said this in a statement a little earlier today. Looking for a second day in a row at DJT, Trump Media and Technology down 3.6% today. Continuing its post-debate slide, hit an all-time low since it went public via SPAC back in March. The company operates True Social. Donald Trump is its top shareholder, down more than 75% from those all-time highs. September 19th is when that lockup period expires. And then I do want to take a look at what happened to shares of Wells Fargo, finishing the day down 4%. The bank did reach a deal with the Office of the Comptroller of Currency, requiring the lender to beef up systems for detecting money laundering and complying with international sanctions, happening a little later in the session today.
Yeah, you definitely see that gap down, though, when the announcement came out. And taking a look at the bond market here, selling pretty much across the board, a little more selling on the back end. You got yields up by 1 basis point in the front and the back up by about 3. There was a 30-year auction, $22 billion at 1 o'clock. It was all right. It managed. It was okay. But really, it's going to be about positioning in that yield curve, which is still disinverted by 3 basis points headed into Wednesday, guys.
Yeah, absolutely here. We're all awaiting some earnings out of Adobe as well as RH. We should point out, though, first, Oracle actually now speaking at a conference here, providing some guidance going forward, and the shares popping 5% in after-hours trading. The company saying it sees at least $66 billion revenue in fiscal 2026 and at least $104 billion in revenue going out into 2029. So see there's long-term forecasts here, but overall you're looking at roughly about 20% growth on average on that side. Scarlett.
All right, Adobe just coming out with results for the third quarter. Revenue beating the average analyst estimate, $5.41 billion versus the consensus of $5.37 billion. EPS was $4.65 for this past quarter versus $4.53, which was anticipated by Wall Street analysts. In terms of the outlook for the fourth quarter, revenue overall missing the average analyst estimate, $5.5 billion to $5.55 billion. Analysts were looking for $5.6 billion. And digital media revenue, $4.09 billion to $4.12 billion. That range is below what analysts were looking for. And I point out that part of the business because everyone's really focused on the creative annual recurring revenue business opportunities within digital media. And that's going to be something that people are going to look up for and listen for on the earnings call.
Yeah, very much so. Looking for, on the earnings call specifically, what's going on in terms of customer buying habits. That's something that we're going to be looking for some insight from management. Keep in mind, this stock is just a little bit lower on the year, down about 3%, but it's going to be down potentially a lot more tomorrow when regular trading begins. If you take a look at what's happening in the after hours, it's down about 6.25% shares of Adobe.
Hey, do you guys remember yesterday when Carol talked about her love of Happy Meals?
Ouch, that hurt.
No, I don't remember anything. It's not personal.
I know.
As
I'm
soon
with
as
you
she
on
walked
that.
in this morning
Totally
into
with
the
you on
office, she said, "Did you guys see the McDonald's news?" And no, it wasn't a special Happy Meal for grown-ups.
Those French fries are incredible.
Okay, well,
with you on
good
that.
news for you. The summer of deals at McDonald's is turning into a fall affair because the chain is going to extend that $5 meal deal. It debuted back in June. It's going to go into December in most U.S. markets. That's according to a statement from this morning.
I think what's really important about this, too, is that you realize that some of these fast food chains are finding competition in a big way, even for, the budget-conscious consumer. And so they're finding that they need to keep maybe these prices lower. I think this speaks to when we try to look for different metrics, right, telling what's going on with different consumers, you just show that it's a little bit tough out there.
Those fries look really good. And by the way, I had McDonald's for dinner yesterday.
Did you really?
Yeah.
What did you have besides?
I had a 10-piece chicken McNugget and fries, and this was at the Yankees game, or before the Yankees game, because I didn't want to pay for the $15 hot dog at the game.
Chicken McNuggets.
Where I saw Paul Sweeney, by the way, so that's neither here nor there.
Romaine's looking. Is he a little under the weather? Might he have a case of man flu?
Man flu? What is this?
I don't know. You tell me.
I don't know. I don't know what man flu is. Is this different from woman flu?
It's like I get it all the time.
You do?
To be honest, yeah.
And what you're saying, this is
You know,
like a
you
more
test for
powerful
COVID.
version of the flu?
Kind of wake up not feeling well,
hair
you
on the
test
chest
for
kind of
COVID.
flu?
You complain a lot to your wife.
Guys get sick and they're like, oh, I'm
I know.
dying.
I know.
I need
Yeah.
soup. I need a duh.
They need their moms.
These are all
my
pictures. These are all
God.
pictures of me that we're seeing.
That is
They
Yeah.
need
This
their
is-
moms. That's what it is.
Anytime I get a headache, this is what I do.
Wait, I don't understand. Are you minimizing our pain? Do we not? If I prick, do I not bleed? I don't understand. What's happening?
You do, but we do, and then we go to work, and we take meds, and we take care of the kids. It's true.
Yeah.
Listen,
Y'all
guys.
are babies when you get sick. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
What is the Urban Dictionary? Man flu is more painful than childbirth. I mean, this just makes me crazy.
Yeah.
All right.
Whoa.
A real
Hey.
quick, I know.
You said it, Carol.
Send
Thank
the
you.
emails. RH, by the way, just out, furniture. There's no easy segue. Second
There is
quarter
no
net
easy
revenue,
segue.
$829.7 million. That's a little bit better than the estimate of $825.1 million. So
I have a connection. If you're suffering from man flu, you're lying on the couch.
Totally.
Purchase from RH.
But don't get that snot on the couch, because RH couches are expensive.
Well,
There you go.
and a man who has flu is like, I have to be on an RH couch because I'm really sick.
Romaine, it's fine.
There we go.
I'm
We're
sorry,
okay.
I stopped listening about 10 minutes ago.
That-
What happened?
That's a wrap.
Yeah.
That's a wrap. Our cross-platform coverage, radio, TV, YouTube, and Bloomberg Originals. You guys rock. All right. Alex, I know you're heading out. Scarlett and Romaine continue on TV.
Oh, boy.
Sorry.
Nice.
I don't know. Scarlett, you may have to do the rest of the show yourself.